It's another day and another matchup here for Rift as they take on the Pirates in Pyjamas around 5 of the North American Overwatch Contenders. I'm Time Light. Joined alongside me here is Twins Salty once more for the first time in about a month here, Jesse. It's been a little while in the Overwatch scene.
Yeah, especially, collegiate's done, high school's done, but now we get to dive into some NA Contender Summer Series action here. Pirates in Pyjamas versus Rift. Obviously, we'll be following Rift today through their two games, but this first one definitely has the potential to be quite juicy, my friend.
It does indeed. A 1-3 team versus a 3-1 team, but Pirates in Pyjamas have already lost to a team that is currently 1-3. So everything's up for contention. We've seen close series. We've seen, well, not so close series there for the Pirates. Two separate 3-0s in two of their 4 games. But that's all besides the point. We can take a look at our standings to really figure out where these two teams are in the long laundry list of Overwatch Contenders teams. Pirates Pyjamas, second from the top. The Rift, however, third from dead last.
Yes, I would say put an asterisk by that because the 4 teams that they've played so far, Strix was their one victory. They're sitting in 7th right now. Their losses were to Wisp 3-0, Saints 3-1, and the undefeated 0-3 Splash. They pushed them all the way to a map 5 just last week in a 3-2 loss. So it's not like they've not been competing up against some of the best teams in Summer Series, just haven't been able to get the results that they need quite yet.
Yeah, and taking a look at their strengths of schedule, that does mean by the process of elimination, they may play the perceived weaker opponents down the line. It's entirely possible that becomes the case where they go from a 1-3 team. If they win here against the Pirates in Pyjamas, they're in a much better spot. They could go a nice even, I'd say 6-5, 7-4 down the line, put themselves inside the top 8, which is the threshold that you need to meet to do something. I don't know what it is, because they haven't really announced it. But if you do something,
well, you get to be playoffs, but we're pretty sure you get to be in fall series. They haven't slapped a label on there quite yet, at least to our knowledge. So waiting to hear that, but automatically top 8, you get to the knockout stages, and that's what both of these teams. I think their goals going into this round robin should be Pirates and Pyjamas. They only squeaked in during the spring series, definitely looking a little bit better though during the summer, as you can see. 3-1 over Good Boys, 3-0 versus Amplify, who is Rift's second opponent tonight. But that 3-2 loss to Afterlife, I was watching the VOD. It was just a very weird game where Afterlife have not played great at times during Summer Series, but able to squeak the game there and potentially exposing some cracks in the armor here for Pip as they enter a very resilient Rift team.
And they have a little bit more of a difficult strength of schedule down the line, the Pirates do, taking on Wisp and the undefeated 0-3 Splash in 2 of the last 3 weeks of play, or 3 rounds of play. We'll take a look at our maps, figure out where we are headed for this 1-3 matchup. Busan's our first map. We will head there to kick things underway as our first control map, a second and possibly third down the line, should we reach 5 or possibly, I say possibly, 6 maps, but never a guarantee, especially in the later of those 2 conversations.
Yeah, you just never quite know. It is Contenders. Some crazy things happen. You and I have some history with some of the ref players when they were formerly under Hive, and some of the craziest games we've ever seen during the OD lower finals and grand finals back in spring. So curious to see if they bring that kind of mayhem to round 5 tonight. But I'm curious for Pip here. I have a feeling we're going to see Strider in, Scissors and Crunk as well on that DPS line. Even though I will say it was weird initially. Strider, they're basically in for everything but Winston. So do not expect them to see them on that. It'll be Eric K later on for Pip, who takes on the Winston role. But Rift will start off on this Winston dive. X10 will teleport the team out as they will swap over to that Tracer as well to give this backline a little bit of pressure, who don't have the sleep or the bio nade with no Ana in play.
There's only a single hero between these two teams that are the exact same, and that's a Tracer. You're seeing Widow versus, well, what was a Sombra. There goes that one Tracer. X10 quickly taken care of. An untimely death there for the Brit, as they have some difficulties getting in early. Astronex soon to fall as well. Not the greatest of starts here for Rift, as Pirates in Pyjamas will cap first.
Yeah, just staying patient, waiting for that pressure to go in. They know it'll happen at some point. Chronic already a few picks to their name. They take out Abyss as well. So the perfect start here for Pirates in Pyjamas, which now this is exactly the position they want to be. Set Chronic up in the back line. They're just going to be able to chill. No real way to pressure them unless Chime throws their Translocator up or Astronex heavy commits to try and throw off that sniper.
And the difficulty is looking at Rift's composition, they need to play for close range engagements. You have that Winston, you have the Brig of all heroes, and that's just not happening thus far. 30%, and there have been 3 deaths in the entirety of this game. It's barely happened whatsoever, much less for any early aggression. They try and dive in on the Widow. Astronex's very lucky to still be alive, and they are no longer. A terrible start to the fight. They're barely even touching the point, much less coming in the general vicinity of it trying to cap. Already seeing Pulse Bomb built up. You're seeing even more off the back of it, and Rift can't even get a foothold.
Yeah, they're struggling just to get a foothold, like you said, because, as like you said earlier, it's so hard for them to go in. You see Astronex, they dive in. All of a sudden, you have almost everybody, with the exception of Scissors, going in to peel for their Widow, because they know if they stay alive, it's a very rough time, but that is the start that they needed here.
Yeah, talking about Scissors, they will quickly fall. As soon as you mention their name, Jesse, it seems like you have a caster's curse, and we're already in the first round. Good usage of the grapple to get them out of dodge, them being the 2 on top of the high ground. Also using a nano onto Astronex no less, and they'll dive in. Z-Man down, Strider will follow, and that may very well be this fight done. The problem is, it has taken forever to pick it up, as Rift will cap, but 1 minute and 25 seconds past when Pirates in Pyjamas originally did so.
I will say, Primal Rage here just to stagger this fight out. They're able to find a few extras. And even though Strider, yes, they'll be kind of running around the back, thought to be greeted by the Sombra, but they didn't heavy commit there with ultimates. They'll have Rally going up in this next fight, and the ever so crucial EMP to try and deny the mines that Strider will try and put in this next fight, but also try and deny Immortality Field and the potential of a Protection Suzu to try and finish off one of those backline targets.
Oh, perfectly timed EMP finds both Z-Man and Chronic. You can see they were probably prepping for a couple ultimates. You were talking about the mines. They also have Kitsune Rush available, Amplification Matrix to boot. There was a lot coming into this fight for Pirates in Pyjamas, but Rift have slowed that down a lot and only dedicated a single ult to do so. Good damage and good consistent eliminations in their favor as Scissors will be the next one and final one to fall.
Strider's kind of stuck behind, but at this point, they're not going to be able to die with the little amount of damage that will be exposed to them, but they're just trying to get in position for this minefield. They're hunting Dimitri. You can tell that's why they're just hiding under any sort of cover they can find.
Again, the close range engagement doesn't really favor the Brig, but they will pop Rally. They want to commit to this. They will help keep their own Ana alive, continually throw out those armor packs, try to sustain for the rest of the team, and it works. The dive in will drop down the Tracer. Oh, almost a follow-up, sorry, as instead it's just everything falling. The Kiriko, the one to fall instead of the Tracer, my apologies. But it's Rift now with 80% as they are continually sustaining, and I have a few ultimates on the way.
Yeah, they'll be able to have this nano, throw it on the Astronex to try and deny Chronic of anything and potentially even force the Immortality Field from Z-Man, as this is really turned into Rift's favor.
Oh, that's a perfectly timed hack as well. They will be able to touch, so overtime will set underway for the time being. And with the mines being thrown through, it's real estate gained here for Pirates in Pyjamas, but they do not get the cap off. They finally do with a good time and well-timed boot, but Astronex with a dive. The nano you were talking about will prove fruitless as they pick up 2 kills. A second off the back of it, that should do it as well. There's no way to hold this ground with a lack of damage. Somebody will still be able to touch, but with Primal popped and Zolik just stuck on the point, left alone. Scissors will touch again. It is all in vain. Rift will cap and take the first point in their favor.
What you don't see in the back as well, obviously you see the nano go in from Abyss. The bio nade thrown in as well from Abyss lands on both targets in the back. At that point, Z-Man and Chronic have nothing at that point. Immortality Field's already gone. You can't heal yourselves, and you're in quite a predicament as Astronex able to get them both out of the fight, and the cards fall their way from there. And they just hid from the Widow. They did a brilliant job as soon as they cap point. All right, we're just going to hide under any cover we can find. We're not going to give them those sightlines, and Chronic was basically useless during the last 50 or so seconds of that map because of it. And now they will stay on the ball comp here for Pip Rift. There's no reason to swap. X10 will TP them out of spawn, but they'll go right back to that Tracer to now maybe have a Sombra to deal with on the other side. And also the Zen as well compared to the Brig.
That's what I was going to bring up. The Zen coming through, you want that little bit of extra damage, and if Astronex does go for that dedication again, the Orb of Discord will help you so much with just continually shutting down that Winston. Large hitbox plus increased damage does not prove a helpful endeavor of staying alive. X10, they'll be seen, but a hack comes through into Striders. They will have to disengage for the time being. It seems like two very separate fights with two different tanks on far sides of this point, but it does seem like Pirates of Pyjamas will cap first again.
And again, Rift kind of just waiting for Pip to make a mistake. Now they'll slowly make their way back over to point. Chime has his translocator set up in the back, but they know without them in the fight quite yet, they more just have to poke and hope for a mistake.
This aspect, though, Rift is doing something similar to what we saw before, taking a little bit too long. There's the dive from Astronex, but it, again, doesn't show all that much because Chronic was able to quickly get away. That Discord Orb, however, helping a decent bit, but was all like falling. Not the greatest of starts to a fight, not even a return, at least not quickly enough, and the damage continually mounting, the lack of healing coming back to bite Pirates in Pyjamas as they will continually be torn apart. A well-timed hack asleep, the kitchen sink thrown at Strider, and off the back of it, they will fall. Cap back for Rift, this time much quicker in almost exactly half the time.
This was part of the issue Pip had when they played Afterlife. When a team against them is playing this Winston dive perfectly, they don't really have an answer for it sometimes because Strider just isn't comfortable on the hero. They cannot mirror match, and you get into these weird counter comps to where, yes, this time around, the Zen's able to find Tracer, but how many times can you really bet on that?
And especially with the Tracer being Tracer, quick flips in will allow you to get back into the fight fairly quickly. Discord Orb, however, dropping Astronex, and that should be the fight. Rift are going to have to disengage. It's that or stagger, trying to gain a few extra points and percentages. It's not going to happen. They just back up.
And the Nano is lost during that fight as well. It just doesn't get anything from Rift, and that is the huge mark to where, yes, you're going to maybe struggle in this next fight, but Z-Man will have the Nano throw in. Scissors looking for this Pulse as well. EMP for both sides.
Pulse being set up from behind. I don't know if they've been heard nor noted in any way, shape, or form. The Ana being noted, however, look for the Pulse to land. However, it misses. Not even damage done off the back of it. Scissors doesn't do enough to write home about. They're now even found out, luckily getting a mini health back in the back corner. They still have to have some support, and they just do not. Luckily enough, Pirates of Pyjamas have kept control of the point this entire time. Hack in the back. EMPs on both sides now dedicated, especially with the slam coming through. Strider needs to turn it to kills, but they just cannot find the way to do so. Slept while the rest of their team will fall around them, and they will quickly be torn apart on the backside of the point. Rift, again, take about 40 seconds, but they are still able to convert the point back in their own favor.
They love just converting it midway through the round, and at that point, just taking control with the ult economy. Beautiful EMP set up in the back. Chime, instantly, them and X10 able to take out Zolik. They did not have the Transcendence quite yet. EMP from the other side, Chronic. Yes, it lands onto Abyss and Mitra, but they're able to pop the rally in time to keep both supports alive, and Rift stay alive one before more fight, and they force the terrain.
Oh, the stick! Trans comes through, but it doesn't do enough. Z-Man's still stuck, and that's all your healing gone. Transcendence will fall without proving all that much useful. Scissors even forced away from the point, and that's Pirates of Pyjamas again having to disengage, waiting for another recontest.
And they used both support ultimates during that as well. Nano and Transcendence gone for Pip, and it's gone from bad to worse in back-to-back rounds. And again, you're just waiting on Strider and this Pulse Bomb from Scissors, if they can stay alive, to try and turn this around and to keep you alive for one more round.
Zolik finds X10. Again, the Tracer will fall early in a fight. Last time this happened, Rift was quickly torn apart off the back of it. Mine's not built up this time in the very late rounds of this round itself, but Pirates and Pyjamas will convert the point back. A stick as a follow-up actually finds two, and we've reached final fight territory. Difficulties mounting now for Rift. Do they even have the time to touch? That's the real question. Nobody alive with teleportation capabilities. X10 and Chime will come back, but X10 will fall immediately after initiating overtime. Chime needs to be able to find a way to get onto that point. Somebody needs to touch and do something about the Pirates in Pyjamas and their reign of terror on the objective. Nano dedicated, but Astronex has nobody in their general vicinity. Bionade will cost them their life. Chime will use the EMP and touch once more, but again, it is all in vain for this Rift side. They're having so many difficulties. Will cost their Tracer, and the round will go to Pirates in Pyjamas.
Not pretty, though. I will say, if you're Pirates in Pyjamas, it was not a pretty round, and you were just so happy for the fact that that pulse bomb lands on both supports, because Rift were just trying to have a soft disengage, hide in that corner, try and make sure Abyss and Yumitra can both live, as Nano was on the board ready to go, and both die. They're not able to have a full recontest, and at that point, it is Stagger City. And yes, they're able to find a few picks here and there. Abyss is able to find two it somehow, some way during that with the Nano and the Nade, but not enough to bring it around. So now we go over to Mecha Base. It will be the Ram Rush Mirror, both teams not wanting to run the dive. And now the question will be, in the neutral, when both teams are running the same exact comp, who will be able to find just the smallest of differences, as both had to go with the Sojourn as well.
Most similarities we've seen all this time. Last time we saw one hero as differences between the two teams. This time we will see one hero as the same, or vice versa in this specific case. Asternex doesn't find all that much, as they will look to continually aggress in the high ground. And this contention for the high ground is going to cost somebody. The question is, who does it end up being? Supports are staying fairly well healthy in the back line, but damage done on both sides. It's the Sojourn for the Mei, as doppelgangers will eliminate one another. Immortality fields also cost out, but at this point, it's just Rift sustaining.
Yeah, just both sides kind of just poking at each other. Was the Mei loss for Pip, reasoning why they aren't pushing in as hard as they would have, and there's the reason. Both supports gone. The rest of the fight's going their way.
I thought Chime was certainly going to die there, but a perfectly timed ice block, and Asternex, the only one to go into the low ground. I suppose you can half a point on your own when nobody else is contesting you. Nice shot for next 10. Clean opening, and Scissors will be quickly sent back to spawn. And just like that, everybody's running for the hills. However, already seeing a quick ult there for Strider. Fairly well timed.
Yeah, already built up the Annihilation, but even though, because of Scissors dying so early, Chime staying alive, a 50% difference here in the Blizzard. They already have it online. They're going to bait the rotation, but it's been called out.
Already seeing Amplification Matrix, but you were talking about it, the Blizzard is indeed dedicated, and Strider, the only one with that Annihilation, well, they will fall. I think everybody else is very soon to follow when your majority of your health pool goes down. The rest of the team is not all that much longer for this world, and you can see a nice cleanup and a cold closeout there for Rift, as they will cleanly win.
Just, yeah, Blizzard goes down exactly when it needs to, and you find the one member who could have turned that fight all the way around in Strider. And Rift, instead of, having to come back when it's 80% already for Pip, they've been able to build a good 60% cushion already. Pip, almost every single ultimate at their disposal. The question is, do they use just enough to continue the snowball?
Another Amplification Matrix used. This time it's the Pirates in Pyjamas to dedicate theirs. That, again, doesn't find all that much. The extent of ultimates that have looked really good in this round have been that single Blizzard. Annihilation, certainly on the way, is dedicated from Strider. They're being attacked from so many different angles, they cannot even look to do damage with their ultimate built up. Luckily, there's a fairly well-timed sound barrier in order to give them some level of sustain, but there's that overclock utilized here for X10, as they will prove everything in their favor. However, the rest of the team will still look to fall around them, and that turn of the point is still well and truly on its way. Decent percentage still in the favor of this Rift side, but the Pirates in Pyjamas, they have an overclock of their own, and now the point capped in their favor.
But they had to use everything, man. They had to use everything during that fight, because it was so messy for both sides, honestly. And I think the reason why Rift has been able to build this kind of lead, the walls have just been a little bit quicker here from Chime. It seems like Astronex is able to be a little bit more aggressive in the front, and Strider is always having to use the guard when they're in this Nemesis form.
Early Mortality Field, but they're more than happy to dedicate it for everybody to stay alive around that Amplification Matrix. Last time we saw this from Rift, it was okay, but needed to be a little bit better. Luckily, they had the Blizzard for some level of redundancy. This time, not really the case. It is, however, well on its way. Good damage use, Blizzard now built up. If they want to dedicate it, now is a really good time to do so. Perfect shot, and a Blizzard now thrown forward. No way out there for the almost certainly dead, and now deceased Ramatra. That should very well do it. Rift have taken this map by storm. Round after round, they've had trials and tribulations, the second most prominently, but they've done more than enough damage to now turn this third round in their favor. Overclocked in the later stages, dedicated, and Busan will go to Rift.
Only the second team to beat Pip on a control map. Afterlife beat them both times on Ilios and Peninsula. But it's only their second team they've actually won control against. So, sorry, they beat O3 Splash, that's correct. So the third team they've been able to sneak away a control win. But again, this is what we know Rift is capable of. Like, we've seen Rift push some of these top teams, O3 Splash, as well as, Saints. And now this is the start that they needed in a series that it feels like this is a very pivotal one for their round robin. If they lose this, they fall to 1-4. And yes, their strength of schedule in the second half is a little bit more lenient, but you need to get a win here against a team that you could probably face in the knockout stages, and this is the perfect start for them. And for Pip, you just couldn't get comfortable late in the rounds. The adaptations were just better by Rift, especially the May walls there by Chime. They just couldn't really be aggressive.
I think these are two teams that you can confidently say are going to have some foothold in the later stages of the round robin. I have a sneaking feeling Rift's going to be in that 7 or 6 general vicinity, with Pip being around 5, maybe a little bit lower, depending on how they do in the later stages of this round robin. But starting off well here for Rift, not only in this week of play with a very important win in the first round and first map, but also having that foothold that they really could not get in the start of round 1, of which, by the way, they won after going down 85-0. In round 2, they were down 85-30 and still brought it back to near max OT in that round in particular, and this one was basically just a roll through, 99-0, even though that much time didn't even seem like it passed. It was just continuous staggers that really cost Pirates and Pyjamas. We have a note on our second map as well. The Pirates have made their decision, and it seems like they're going to try and gain their booty in New York.
Yes, going to the Big Apple to try and even up this series. It's not a bad idea, I can't lie. They won pretty convincingly against Afterlife on this map. It was actually Strix who took down Rift the very first game on this exact map, so it's an understandable pick here if you are going against Rift. But the question is, do you make any subs? Are you going to try and keep Strider in? Do you want to make any subs in your support or DPS line? I know they like to mess with their DPS line a little bit here and there. For Rift, honestly, you got to win the second map, I think, if you want to have a good consensus control, because Push has been one of your best friends. You've played very well on Push throughout this tournament so far. Escort's not really been there a lot of the time. I don't think they've yet to win one, or have won just one. They've not won an Escort this entire tournament. So this is where you really need to start turning it around. If you can get a 2-0 lead, let's just say you lose map 3 because it's not been your map type up to this point. Can you actually get this series under wraps and actually get this to a win to set yourselves up for later on tonight and for the rest of this tournament? Because you can do it. You just showed it there. Is now just the consistency for this team.
They have had some difficulties. You were talking about it. Watchpoint Gibraltar, they lost 3-2 to O3 Splash. In round number 1, they chose Circuit Royale, however, still unfortunately lost it. And that was to Strix. That was a map they really needed back because, well, they ended up winning 3-2, but they had some difficulties. They won Coliseo, they won Lijiang, sure, but I mean, still, you did not want to have to bring that all the way to 5. As we take a look at Midtown, though, do you see any notable subs that would certainly come in? I mean, we can't see the lobby, we can't see things as we go into the game, but looking at this, do you have any in particular that you'd identify and say, oh yeah, this is a hero they'd play, so sure?
I would say Pip is probably going to stick with Strider. They'll run the Ramatra for the most part here, unless they want to try and shift over to an Eric K if they want. But that'd be like, you're calling your card like, no, we are running Winston. Like, we are going to run Winston no matter what, because that is what they're traditionally in for. Other than that, maybe we see Stone come in, maybe we see even Neptune come in, but I really doubt it. I think we'll probably keep the same rosters for both sides. I think for Rift now, you have the edge of flexibility, I feel, on Pip. They're going to be most confident on a ball comp and sometimes this Ramatra. They can shift over to other things, but it's definitely not what they are the best on. So if you can try and keep this Winston dive that you have, try and keep that kind of comp going and force them to make the adjustments needed to actually make you swap. Because right now your Winston rush has been great. And even in the Ramatra duel, if you feel like that is what you need to do, you were able to win it over on Mecha base. So as we go in, Pip will be defending first. We have no subs in for them, and they will stick to this Ramatra rush. But this time, they will actually continue with the Brig. They're not going to try and get fancy with anything else, with the BAP or the Kiriko, like they've shown in other comps so far tonight. But Chronic will be on the Ashe. We've seen, especially on point A defense, trying to keep one of those DPS, either as a Soj or an Ashe. Dare I say, we'll see a Soldier later on. You want to try and keep that long-range pressure that X10 and Chime will try and deal with.
I gotta say, I'm hoping for the Soldier. Just to justify my
see
own ranked selections later on tonight. That's the only reason I want to see a Soldier, because I play Counter-Strike and I'm a Soldier trick. That's the extent of what I'll harp on that subject. But with Rip bringing in the Hanzo Tracer combination and Chime being the one to play Tracer, contrary to when we saw X10 having them bring it in our previous round, I'm curious to see how this may help or hinder the Rift attack. They will start off on the attack, by the way. This was their choice to do so. Pip have chosen the map, Rift chose the side, and surprisingly enough, they chose the attack. Not usually the case.
Yeah, traditionally see a lot of teams take defense first, but now Astronex dives in right away. He's been hiding in the fire station up to this point, and Strider's forced to back away.
When you can see Abyss is sitting in that far side, just, well, they were for 2 seconds. I don't know what, unless that was Chime peppering in, just 3 shots across. I don't know what the heck's going on. Somebody over on the right side of your screen. A game of hide and seek even with our X-ray vision, but Strider still just peppering in some damage to do. They will still take some from X10, and now comes the dive. They want to try and dedicate on this Rift side, but Asterix is left on an island. They will go for it, and now so will the Pirates in Pyjamas, but still more than enough damage done in return. Strider does get a very fortuitous bio-nade to keep them in this one. An odd sonar on top of their hitbox, but luckily enough, they will keep their line of sight intact and their team well defended.
Abyss is able to build up this nano. They'll send it on to Astro for this next dive, and even if not, Dragon Strike can be used by X10. There it is, just to try and force everyone off the high ground.
Dragon Strike and Nano in very quick succession, but Chronic is still the first one to find a kill. Chime is down. The sleep comes through on towards Strider, but they are not able to finish off the kill. Very little done in the grand scheme of things for how much was dedicated here for Rift. Astronex down. X10 does take out Chronic, but it's a consolation kill. Not good enough for how much you put in.
You were at least able to force out the nano as well from Z-Man. They went on a Chronic just to keep him alive, but it actually ends up getting them the kills they need to stay alive into that fight. It's not a bad idea with the Dragons and the jump in with the nano. I think it was just ever so slightly mistimed. Astro really couldn't find anyone for a good second or two until they find Zolik, but at that point, getting pocketed by Z-Man is now Astronex in the background, but not able to find anyone quite yet.
Oh, the timing on that pulse bomb, though, doesn't do enough. And oh my goodness, Rift are just collapsing around it. Strider finds a double, just casually walking into the backline. Lack of Astronex kind of helps with that one. Chronic able to take them out elsewhere, and Pirates of Pyjamas again sustaining. 80 seconds left on this attack.
Yeah, and just in a pretty familiar spot, honestly, as Rift, it just takes a long time, especially for teams on the attack, to get going on this objective, because it is such an awkward choke point. You have so many angles you want to try and put pressure on as Astro tries to cross, but this will allow Strider just to push in, try and find someone in the back, and forces out the rally so early.
Can I even find anything off of the back of that, or is it just a direct counter, one of the more valuable support ultimates nowadays? And the dedication now coming back to bite Rift. Astronex tries to prop Primal, and will do so, but is bionated and now slept in the background. Chime finding Zolik, but look at how many different heroes are dedicating themselves to try and drop Astronex. They don't get the opportunity, though. And now a tick at a bare minimum gained for Rift, at least for the time being. They've built up Dragons, Pulse Bomb well in the way, and Nano soon to follow. But Bob is going to be an initiation utility for this defense to try and come back into this fight. Annihilation available, and Strider may very well pop it. There's no anything to try and counter this if they have it available, and they're just going to walk in. Somehow the Brig survives. Abyss may very well do so as well, and they will. It's them healing each other.
And they're just gonna pop the Annihilation in the backline, but as you said, the supports is gonna keep each other up. The Nano goes onto Yamitra to make sure they stay alive, but now you gotta put somebody on the point. For now, it's Astro.
Chronic, however, finding Astro as they try and leap to a kill. Unfortunately, they only leap to an early grave, and that should do it for this round. A second tick was gained for Rift in the background, though. They did enough crowd control in the backside of the point itself, while Strider was over-dedicated, trying to heal the supports who were basically mercy-pocketing each other in the background. And unfortunately, that overcommitment cost them percentage, but not the point, nor a significant amount of time, as Pirates of Pyjamas healthily hold.
Yeah, I think Strider knew exactly what they were doing going in. Like, you know, I may not get kills from this. You're going to force out a Yutso, though, and you're putting your team in a 4v3 situation where Rift have no supports in line of sight for either their DPS or their tank, and at that point, you can only play off health packs so much if you're Astronex and the DPS. So a very nice hold there from Pirates and Pyjamas. They've shown that this is one of their best maps in the current map pool, and it shows right there. Currently, they're showing the Winston. I doubt Strider stays on this unless they really do want to experiment with it, at least early. But at Rift, you got to stay on what you're comfortable on, your go-to, even if it didn't really work out exactly how you would have wanted on your attack. X10 wasn't able to get a whole lot of picks. And even though, yes, Rumitra and Abyss were able to stay alive and fend off those dives coming in from, especially Scissors and just the normal push coming in from Strider, they were never really able to capitalize on it.
Difficulty you're going to see for Rift on this defensive side is sustainability. They, sure, have the Brig on a combination, but so does Pirates and Pyjamas. They have that, I mean, I suppose you could say they have the Winston to hold, but if Pirates and Pyjamas make that switch to the Ramatra, you don't have a get-out-of-jail-free card if you are a Winston, especially for a defensive side where that rotation back is going to take a little bit of time. Sure, the Ramatra has that. They have that sustainability. You can't say the same for a Winston in that same conversation.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to stay alive if you're ramming his guard, but, well, X10 learned how also volatile Strider can be on the Winston, already getting that first pick.
That's a terrible start, to say the very least here for Rift. Strider and Astronex just doing the least consequential damage to one another the history of Overwatch 2. But here comes the engagement. Scissors from behind will quickly take out Ramitra, and that may very well do it for this round. More damage from behind. You can see the Winston running for the hills. Luckily, Strider has some healing. That's already a first tick found. Almost a second as X10 will walk in only to their own demise. And blink and you miss it. Congratulations, Midtown's over. Pirates and Pyjamas will win it, and they'll tie us up at 1 apiece.
And yes, we kind of felt like Pip was definitely the leader here in this map going in, but definitely showed the prowess there. As I think, is this where they got Nano? No, this is the OT where they just go absolutely insane with the Bob as well. And for the attacker Rift, it just seemed like, yes, you get that initial look in, but you were never able to take advantage. Astro would get into decent positions and get somebody low, whether it be Chronic or somebody in the back line, but he was never able to fully finish them off because A, the peel was there for Pip, and the finishing was not.
Yeah, you could also see that Rift had so many difficulties getting that peel on a consistent basis, not only on their attack, but on their defensive side as well. They tried for some distance damage, but you don't have the Ramatra to keep yourself alive. You could see Strider was just owning that Winston fight. There is no two ways about it. The jump onto X10 was nearly perfectly timed. They had no shot of surviving on top of the fire engine. And at that point, you're writing off the game. And unfortunately for Rift, it is not tax season, so they're not going to find the fruits of that for a little while.
Yeah, nah, for a long time for Rift. As with the series being 1-1, the question is now, can Rift win an escort? Because this is a map type they have historically struggled on, with the exception of Shambali that you and I have seen under a former name. So, do you think they're going to go to it? I think that is kind of the question that's going around right now. They might be able to. They loved running the Mei back then. But I don't know if they're feeling it anymore with this kind of improvised roster that came in. You know, Hanbei, who's not playing right now, coming over from Trick Room. And you got a few other pieces that are relatively newer to this Rift squad, at least since we've last seen them in our capacity. So, curious to see if they decide to bring it out.
So,
Well,
I was
that's a
actually
no.
about to bring this up. Our producer just told us what the map is. I'll give the reasoning for it, and I'll give you the map before any spoilers come through. In week 1, they played Strix. They lost Midtown as a second map in the exact same situation that we were here. They won map 1, it was our Antarctica Peninsula instead of Busan. They lost map 2 of Midtown, of which Strix chose instead of Pirates Pyjamas. And then their third map, of which was the choice of Rift and is now here, as we'll reveal it, is Circuit Royale as our third. I like this decision. The problem was they lost it in round number 1. It was a 2-1 fashion. Strix then went on to lose the series, 3-2 as a whole, but they ended up going down 2-1 after the escort map itself. I like the fact that they're going back to this. It shows that they feel like they've learned something. It also shows the fact that they hate Watchpoint Gibraltar because they've played it each of the last 3 weeks, and they've lost it each of the last 3 weeks. Or 3 rounds.
Yeah, you gotta think at some point, like, you need to call it. Like, you just can't be running it anymore, or at least gotta try and take a break from it. As you said, they did lose this map against Strix just 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't horrendously close. It was just the slightest of mistakes that can really turn into the snowball on that map especially, and it just seemed like they were never able to stop the bleeding. Pip, on the other hand, I don't think they're going to be that mad about this because they have loved playing this map as of late. They really lean into their strengths on the DPS line, maybe not as much Strider as it is for both their DPS. So curious to see how they want to run it, as they did play it once so far. It was actually in their loss against Afterlife, but they did win this 1-0. So definitely an uphill battle here for Rift as they enter potentially the back end of the map pool, or the map set that is slightly more leaning to what they like to play. But hey, we'll have to see if they can turn their fortune.
I'm looking at my notes. I believe they've played it a second time. They played it in the first round as well. They ended up beating Good Boys in 3-2 fashion.
So definitely one that they're pretty comfortable at going into this. So curious to see what Rift have up their sleeve. And, we already saw Pip run the Widow a little bit earlier. It didn't really do much, but that's just because they were able to avoid the line of sight for Rift. Rift won't be able to do that as well here on Circuit Royale because this is sniper heavy. It is Sigma Royale, as a lot of us like to call it, because that's all you're going to see here. You're going to see a lot of Sigma, especially in the first 2 phases of this map. Double Sniper, BAP Zen. That is going to be everything you want to see here.
No, it's not something you want to see. It's something you're going
Well, it's what you're going to see.
There's a very big difference. If I got what I wanted to see, I'd see 5 different Widowmakers on both teams. However, I don't get what I want because there's role locks and, there's this whole rule of not playing into the same roles because goats happened. It kind of ruined the esports scene of Overwatch. I'm entirely joking. It's a good thing for the game. However, seeing consistent hero compositions like this, I note as nice consistency because it does tell us what we're looking for on a fairly nice basis. But I think the main problem with this, at least from my point of view, is everybody falling into complacency. Oh, it's Circuit Royale. Let's just play Sigma and get on with it. Nobody's going to try something different. Your Sigma player is going to play this map every time, and they're going to stay Sigma for basically the entire time. You're not going to see any changes, and I think Overwatch is much healthier when there are consistent differences that are viable for teams.
That's true. And I think the game is in a weird spot to where this is like one of the only maps where that's not true. Because it is just so long range. It's so hard if you're running any other comp to not get poked out by a comp like this, as both teams, as we guessed it, will be running Hanzo Widow, Sigma, BAP, Zen. Kind of surprised that Hanbei does not sub in here for Yamitra. It will be them staying in on the BAP. Sometimes we've seen Hanbei sub in and have Abyss stay on the Zen, but for now, it will be Yamitra staying in the game. So let's see if that will be able to change it here for Rift as they start on defense. And well, the exact same almost mistake that kind of ruined them against Strix happens yet again. An early pickoff.
Somebody grabbed the shocked Pikachu face in terms of the hero compositions, maybe not the early death. Good healing to make sure that Shine gets out alive, and there will be a quick as possible recontest. But an opening kill basically gives them 70, maybe 80 meters for free in this first round. And a reminder, the last time and the only time we saw this map played here for Rift, it was in 2-1 fashion that they lost. They need a good defense in order to have some level of sustain. in the later stages of this map, and they just don't have that thus far. 93 of 97.5 meters already relinquished in this first round, and this first point almost already given up for nearly free. A single kill is all that's happened in the entirety of this one, and they're just barely starting to regress. Difficulties for trying to hit their shots from a distance. They'll still do some damage, but nothing really to write home about. And you can see that difficulties just helping the Pirates as they just sit around the point and heal each other and continue to do some amount of damage to stick around.
And the fact that, yes, this is normally a phase of the map where you can have 2, maybe 3 guaranteed fights. This is only their second fight, as it will be one with trade, but that'll be changed quite quickly.
Oh, no, the Sigma's going down. The Strider getting the Sigma kill, at least onto Astronex. That's just a quick fall apart. Nobody else was able to stick around. When I said it the previous map, when the majority of your health pool falls, the rest of the team will do so in very short fashion. Not the greatest of starts, to say the very least here for Rift, but second map, or second point is still a brand new point, and they're going to look to reinitiate as the teams try and do so.
Just never were able to get their footing. Honestly, if you were Rift, you have Astro die so early in the beginning of first phase, and then you're playing at the corner. Yes, it's a nice position, but you're never really able to get into your ideal spots for X10 and Chime to find those early picks, and now already halfway through second phase, they can finally start pushing back in.
Grab used, perfectly timed accretion though. Astronex needed that in order to nullify and keep themselves involved in this fight. And with the grab now available here for Astronex, they have that difference maker in this round. Dragon used, and you're going to see infrared sights as well. Chronic will be able to turn that into an opener. A second onto Chime. Here's that retribution, but the problem is Transcendence already available will completely nullify the grab and end this second round. It seems like Rift need to end the suffering sooner rather than later, because that'll do it here for the second point.
Chronic is giving chronic pain everywhere to Rift right now. They are just on fire on the Widow, as well as Zolek, I will say, is, you know, playing a few of their old teammates, which is a nice little show up there. But 4.5 minutes is so unusual for this map going into third phase. It is ridiculous. And Pip also get high ground control for the most part, at least the first half of this. And now Scissors will actually swap off the Hanzo, go out to the Genji. We've seen them on this just once in a great while, but we'll actually try and go on to this to try and give Abyss and Charm a little bit harder of a time, while Chronic's already doing enough of that.
It seems like the Pirates of Pyjamas will at least keep their sustainability of keeping one Shimada brother up while the other one is dead. This time it's, however, the Genji instead of the Hanzo for both teams. But Rift still losing that opening fight, again having to relinquish early control. 70 meters again given away off of just a single kill in this third round. And Pirates of Pyjamas are just casually swinging the corner. Really no main initiation tool used. Chronic will do more damage up, this time on towards Abyss, who is on the high ground, and they'll quickly fall. Already that kill picked up, but X10 has found a return. Looking for a second, but they'll quickly be clotheslined on the top side. That may very well do it on this round. Distance and damage not really playing into the favor of this Rift defense, of which has seemingly been out to lunch. The Pirates of Pyjamas will look to complete Circuit Royale in very quick fashion. Trance will be used, but to no real full avail. The swing to no full extent, and the Doomfist will be very short-lived in the round and in their specific life. Pirates of Pyjamas will leave over 3 minutes on the clock, in which finishing in overtime is routine.
Chronic just woke up, that's for sure. This is a Chronic masterclass on Circuit Royale. I don't think they ever died. You can correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure
I don't think
Chronic never died during that, and that was a huge factor for Pit being able to set up so many of these fights. Yes, you're able to land a nice little shot on an Astronex. The rest of the team's able to finish it up from there to set yourselves up for first phase. Then you're able to find the pick to end first phase. And it's time after time, Chronic is able to find a pick when Rift are just not able to really start off a fight on their terms. And this is practically worst case scenario for, yes, a map type, you know, Pip was favored in, but Rift, this is not what they wanted to start this map out like. And there's no real exact answer to what to do. It's just, you got to change something up because Chronic was the issue.
Seems like a rebrand to an NBA player known as The Problem is now required.
Okay.
Maybe they can find the solution
well,
on the Rift side.
Oh, no, that would create quite a rift in the community, I think, if you did that. But you
Hey,
didn't get my
I'm the
joke.
one
All
who
right,
makes
whatever.
terrible jokes around
I'm
here.
the okay. You get a bad joke, I get
I
a bad joke. That's how it is.
we're gonna be here
Pip,
for a while then. Oh jeez.
yeah. Stay with us, chat. It's gonna be a long night. As Rift, yeah, they're going to try and destroy the Shield of Strider right away. They're actually locked in this room for now, but have easy access to get out, and they just cannot afford to make the same mistake that Astronex did on their defense. And well, maybe not.
It's not Astronex to fall early, but it is Zolik. That's a pretty decent start with that Zen falling in the first little bit. And down goes Strider, overcommitting to say the very least. Nice follow-up from Shime. Good night, Scissors. That is an even better first start. Not only do they find a first kill, but they develop off the back of it. And what a follow-up. Chronic dead too. Seems like Shime has finally woken up from their one-round sleep here on the scene.
That is what they needed to start. This is the start they needed. Have the exact same thing happen on their attack. Get the ball rolling and get the comms back in a better spot. Because I got a feeling the comms after that round were not very positive or energetic. That is how you start it back up here on your attack. You just can't allow Chronic to find the pick.
Looking for that single shot they need. They do hit a light pole, luckily enough. A second one just barely misses. It's singular points of damage that are required here, but an even better return as X10 will turn into a first kill. Dragons used to split this defense, of which seems to be already lackluster. And a follow-up now found in return. Zolik comes back from their sleep and their first death to return onto Astronex and finally make sure that Sigma will play a part no longer. But Chime is still sticking around. They do not want to go over so quietly into that good night. They're trying for this damage, but they just can't find it, and they'll have to re-engage.
Yeah, I think that at this point, just sticking around to see if they can sneak a pick, but they're not going to try and be too aggressive. As now Transcendence almost online for both sides. It'll be an early window here, though, from Z-Man that may set it all up.
More information play here for this attacking side. They need to get in sooner rather than later. Much worse time bank already in comparison to the Pirates in Pyjamas. And the aggression from up above. Scissors makes it out with a singular point of HP. A breeze would knock them over, but luckily they make it back to the support line. Amplification matrix used, but there's the grab in return. Luckily they have the sustain, but Shime will be the one to fall in the process. Chronic hits the shot they've ever so been looking for, and a follow-up is there from Scissors. Down goes the DPS line, and away go Rift.
And this is going from bad to worse now for Rift.
Oh,
as
no.
Scissors is able to find another one. As Chronic's actually been kind of quiet on the defense. It's been the Hanzos from both sides bringing in the action. And Pip now can just settle in. Yes, you had to use the window, but you also forced Yamitra to use theirs late on. Did not get any purchase from it. And now you're banking on the fact if you're Rift, you find an early pick with this Gravitic Flux, or at least forced out the Transcendence at the very worst. And then you can try and take the fight from there, even though Chronic, they're looking for a nice cheeky pick. I don't think anybody knows they're up there quite yet, but now they do.
Damage done. Nothing really else. They'll grab the Mega Health back and back away with their life still fully intact. The problem still remains here for this Rift attack is, can they find that second initiation? They found it the first time around with Zolik being the one to fall, and they developed off the back of that. Thus far, they have not found all that much to turn into fruit. Dragons used. Again, Trance now forced out. Finally a grab in return, but they find the Zen, of whom uses a Trance of their own. It seems like a whole nothing burger here for Rift, other than death. Scissors will drop Yamatra for yet another attempt. A follow-up from Chronic. X10 is clotheslined once more. In 15 seconds, we reach final fight. Can Rift even get back?
With Astro on the Doomfist, they should be able to get back, but can they make anything of it? That is a different question, I believe. Is Chronic just they're looking for it. They know the Doomfist is coming. Yes, they're able to touch, but they do not live for very long. And Pip settling in here to series point.
What? Chronic
Oh
just does Chime again. He's not done with this. The craziness will not stop just yet. Pirates in Pyjamas, they will mirror Strix with losing map number 1, winning Midtown and Secret Royale, and going up 2-1 in the series. The difficulty for them, can they stop the bleeding there on the Rift side, just as they did in that first round of play, or are we going to see a turn for the worse and a quick fall from grace? Nice couple shots from Chronic here. Follow up and kills and the kitchen sink seems like it was thrown at Rift. Just consistent damage and pretty clean, consistent kills from him in the later stages as well.
Yeah, it just seemed, especially Chronic on that attack, could do no wrong. Like, there was nothing that man could do wrong on the Widow, and just set themselves up. And I think at that point, Rift, I don't know if this mentally boomed. That would mentally boom me, I won't lie. If I had a Widow going against me like that, it would be a pretty rough time in that VC. But now they enter the second half of the map set where they feel a lot more comfortable. They can run the Winston rush slash dive more often. They can run the Ramata rush as well if they choose. If they can win this in this push map, there is a slight potential I think they can bring it back on control depending on the map, as they've seen to have flipped that switch on these map types. It just seems like, I don't know, Escort and Hybrid is not their map type during the summer series, and you gotta think something's gotta click at some point.
They have played Push on, if I have done my math correctly, 3 separate occasions. They have won it just twice. They've played Coliseum all 3 times. They have beat Strix, they have beaten the O3 Splash squad, but the one time they had lost was to lose the series up against the Saints, who have been looking pretty good, all things considered, here in
Really
a
good.
Contenders round robin. We're going to send it to a break. When we return, we will find out which push map we go to, and whether the series continues or if it's Pirates in Pyjamas to close it out in 4. First map is a victory, but since then, Rift just have not shown up. Second and third of Midtown and Circuit Royale in very dominant fashion for the Pirates and Pyjamas, as they're up 3-1 in the season and up 2-1 here in the series, trying to close it out in a quick fourth to come. Our fourth map, by the way, has been determined. It will be, for the fourth time this season, Colosseo. And I don't know if they're going to like it all that much on the Rift side. I'm Time to Light, join alongside me, by the way. This is Twin Salty for our Rift coverage of Overwatch North American Contenders. What do we feel about Colosseo?
I think it's better than Esperanza or New Queen Street for them. They've played pretty well on it so far. They're 2-1 on this map. The only loss being to Saints in their 3-1 loss to them. But as we said earlier, Saints is, I think, one of the best teams in NA contenders at the moment, so not a huge shock to see them come on top. But I think this is where Rift, obviously, they have to turn it around here. That or it's a 1-3 loss to Pip, and it's another series to where they start off really great against a team that is higher up in the standings, but are not able to finish off the series. So I'm curious to see if they are finally going to be able to get over that hump, at least force it to a map 5, to where at that point, at least you're slightly more in control. If you are Rift, it just depends on what map Pip would like to go to. So definitely there. I don't see us seeing a Widowmaker here, which is almost the entire reason why Circuit Royale went in Pip's favor. So it's more, okay, can you just clean up the little things and try and find that opening pick? Because Pip have been finding it fight after fight.
It's a start that's required for Rift. No beating around the bush. They need good openings to fights in one way, shape, or form. It doesn't really matter what shape, form, or way that is. But Colosseo, I think most importantly, is a way to look at this. Because when we started on Busan, it was similar to the layout of Colosseo. The city center, you're in a very weird spot, but it seemed like Rift is going to play that, if I had to guess, the same way they should be playing Colosseo, in terms of a very disengaged start to a fight until you find a way in, and then you go for it. They have to find a way in, and that was their difficulty in Busan. They solved the problem there. And then the problem just mounted until it just was unsolvable on Midtown and Circuit Royale. They could not find a foothold, and then they did, and then they did nothing after that. That was the story of at least round 2 of Circuit Royale.
Yeah, Circuit Royale was a blur. It was chronic causing chronic pain to the entire Rift roster. That was really about it on Circuit. But I do think Colosseo will be at least a little more it'll be a little more recognizable as kind of more Busan was, because this will be a little bit closer, more brawly style. I think the thing that Rift will have to clean up as well is the disengages and re-engages. Pip are very clean about knowing exactly, hey, we just need to wipe here, die on the cart or the bot. Rift at times kind of staggered themselves out. It has cost them a little bit here and there with space. We saw it their defense in the beginning first phase, them losing Astronauts early. Some of them didn't really get away, got picked off, and you were playing so late in the first phase, you never truly got set up. So if they can try and change that here, it's at least a start to how they can try and bring back this series into this favor and send us to a decisive map 5. But as the team spawn in, he will get a general idea in just a second of what each team are thinking. But I have a feeling Ramacha Rush will be the calling for both sides. And what do you know? There you go, a Ramacha Rush, with the only exception right now is Pip actually running the BAP. We've seen them basically run that almost the entire night. Abyss, though, will stick to the Ana for now.
Not seeing any subs, though. And keeping a similar roster all the way through 4 maps is rare. Keeping it through like 2, even in collegiate, at low levels, is rare, much less in the contenders scene. I have to say, if the teams are happy with their compositions, I'm happy to keep calling them the way they are, and not seeing any new names means I can't confuse any pronunciations any more than I already have. So I'll take it, at least for the time being. But Rift, thus far, have not taken all that many wins. That's been their main problem. Getting that start, or getting a win. They have done so in Busan, since then out to lunch, and that has to change here. Colosseo has a tendency to snowball. While it may not be New Queen Street, it is ever so cold with the maze that are consistently brought in, and that will not stop if, well, Rift doesn't find a good start here.
Yes, they will need to find something, and so far neither team really able to find anything. Few little bio nades, that'll be what Rift have to play around here, and Abyss was very clean with the bio nades over on Busan. They'll have to continue that fortune here is already 56% to their nano to try and send Astronex in later just for a full-on commit, but for now, the poke battle continues with the minute gone, and that bot has yet to even scratch the surface on either barricade.
Been a minute and 10 seconds, and the bot has moved maybe a meter and a half in one way or another, and it's just the team coming in the general vicinity. There's a flank coming from behind. Zolik looks for the kill onto X10, of whom just backs away to the rest of their team, and everybody plays the poke and prod battle once more, but finally we see some level of an initiation. Here comes Rift looking for some level of early aggression, but it's only to Astronex taking a decent bit of early damage and needing to find sub-sustain. They do so, and they will hold for the time being. The rest of their team, again, has to back away, and a whole lot of nothing has happened off the back.
And, yeah, we have 0 meters on either side, but now at least some ultimates will be starting to become into play as even, they at least realize how ridiculous this is in the game chat as well. Blizzard almost online here for Scissors, but the question is, will Abyss send in Astronex first with the nano to try and find that pickoff, or the Blizzard, will it be used in response to try and win the fight here for Pip?
For the nano. Here's Abyss looking for Astronex for a nano as they walk in. Are they going to use it? And the answer, at least as of right now, seems to be no. Astronex quickly taken care of. There's the Blizzard that was really in contention, and that will probably be the first meterage gained in some way, shape, or form. Good reinitiation, though. Chime does find one at a Chronic, but it'll only end up costing them their life. X10 will be the next one to fall, and yeah, I mean, it took 2.5 minutes, but the bot has finally started to move one of those 2 barricades.
That's got to be a contenders
Not kidding. It was
record,
actually
at least up
2.5
there.
minutes.
Yeah, that's got to be a record. I hope somebody in the back can fact check that.
Where's the
us,
stats,
but...
people?
Oh yeah, or that was an incredible stall in the middle. But now Astronex is pushed right back on in. The wall early forces out the jump from Z-Man, but the Ravenous Vortex finds nothing. But the bot goes right back to mid, and we just hit the big fat reset button.
It's like a whole lot of nothing has happened, minus 20 meters in Pirates in Pyjamas' favor, but that can quickly be responded with a single fight victory. There's Astronex walking in. They were at 50 HP by the time they started to initiate. They will use a decent bit of utility to get in. Nano yet dedicated. It seems like the Annihilation may very well be on its way as well. But the Nano has found a whole lot of nothing other than allowing Astronex to sustain. Very well-timed sound barrier, though, will completely nullify alongside that Blizzard, but Zolik makes it out alive even while being frozen. They have no business sustaining on the backside of that bot, but they will do so nonetheless. Strider, however, falls, and it'll have to be the disengage for Pirates in Pyjamas.
And they will, well, they swap off and they swap right back on the win on Ramatra. Scissors builds up that Blizzard yet again. But I just said, like, so much poke going around. Astro's like, do I go in? Do I not? And eventually,
And that's the lead.
they're able to find the pick. This bot will finally at least enter Arch. They do grab the lead. They'll go right back to mid where home sweet home is. And we'll be right back to where we were. But Rift, they had to use everything in that fight. Pip should have the advantage.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to your regularly scheduled program of a whole lot of nothing in the middle of Caliseo. We've been here for about 4 minutes, where in that time period, 44 meters and change has been gained by each team. It's actually about 45 if you total the tallies, but numbers not really being anybody's specific thing here. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Pirates in Pyjamas will have to back away. Good sleep on Strider, but they'll be quickly woken up, and Rift will, at least for the time being, gain some advantage, but then they'll walk in, they'll take some damage. Astronex is going to have to back away, and they'll do so straight into a Blizzard. Good Immortality Field will try to keep Astronex alive, but not for very long. There's actually the Immortality Field from Pirates in Pyjamas, and it lands to full effect. They will win yet another fight, a team kill. I believe, to my recollection, the first one we've seen in this series, and that meterage will quickly increase off the back of it.
We finally get to see Bridge. We're halfway through the map, and we finally actually get to see the bridge. And most of the Rift will actually go onto the high ground right away. It'll just be Zolik riding around the bot, everybody else on bridge. And Sound Barrier now almost online for them. They actually use the amp though right away.
Oh my goodness, Astronex very lucky to be alive. Unfortunately, Chime is not any longer. That amplification matrix not paying off the fullest extent, but it'll do enough to force everybody. Storm arrows don't find all that much. More damage attempted onto X10, but they'll be happy to play close range for the time being. And Chronic will actually fall close range. Astronex has dedicated themselves fully into this fight, but the problem is they've taken more damage than they've dished out. Strider fully holds W in, but will be slept. Unfortunately, is now woken up. The timing could not have been worse, but the Annihilation will now be returned. Something now back for Astronex, but more and more damage dedicated straight to the dome of that Ramatra, and they will fall because of it. Chime on the backside of the point will find one, but Scissors finds a double, and the checkpoint will be reached. I didn't even think we were going to come in the general vicinity of the checkpoint, but Pirates of Pyjamas, 6 minutes into the game, will find it first.
There is something about this Rift team. They never say die to a fight until very late on, and that time might have been to their detriment. The Annihilation is gone, and they don't really get much from it. Yes, you stall a little bit, and you force the soft reset because of the kill. You're fine, but the tick is still taken by Pip and the advanced spawn because of it. You do have the Blizzard to try and play with. Yumitra has the sound barrier as well to try and deny the Blizzard from Scissors. The Giant Surfer Chronic could throw everything off in this very tight corridor.
Pirates of Pyjamas have given away forward spawn. That may very well be a problem later on. Blizzard again put out, and Astronex again will die to it. To my knowledge, they've used it 3 times on the Pirates of Pyjamas side, and all 3 occasions, Astronex has been caught and died off the back of it. Shime, however, will follow up as a death, and problems now mounting. With those Ramatras being out, it's up to the supports and the damage dealers to deal said damage, and it seems like Pirates of Pyjamas are on the better side of that engagement.
Yumitra just doesn't get the beat off in time. Astro is behind the wall. They're trying to break it so they can actually hit them with the ult, and they're just not able to do anything. I forget you can stall from up there. They at least stall it for a little bit, and now they stall it on the other side to try and at least stall for their team to get back. But the thing is, they only got Nano and Dragons to work with. Pip got a lot more.
They do have still 2 ultimates on the Pirates side. They're the Dragons, thrown in fairly well timed, and they actually find Zolik, almost actually taking out Z-Man as well, alongside Strider, but good Immortality Field will keep them in this for the time being. They try to run for the hills, but it's just going to be a sustained battle for Strider on the point. Problem is, there's somebody behind them, the next 10 with a pretty nice shot to the dome. Will quickly take care of them. They will again nullify forward spawns, and Pirates of Pyjamas will lose the affirmation.
And now Rift can finally push to the opposing bridge side, to where they haven't been able to really this entire game. They hold on to the Nano. They should be able to build up the Annihilation. This is another fight where if they can win this, they get it back to a spot where they can maybe bring this back in Lamp Force early.
Decent benefit. They follow up with a kill on Zolik, dropping down almost the entire support line. They want to follow up, and they will do so successfully onto Z-Man. The only kill back was Yumitra, who will be the quickest one to return for the team. This is almost a certain checkpoint if they start to push it, but they have to get it there quickly.
I think there'll be an ever so late recontest here from Pip,
Yeah.
but this is reminiscent of the Rift win versus Strix. They were down in that map on Caliseo for the majority of it, and they squeak it very late in that one, and this is getting deja vu from that one. But Dragon will at least separate Yumitra, and yeah, they're all alone.
They slept him. That's the problem. They slept him. Blizzard will be dedicated as well. They find everything they need. The counter is there, as will the ice block. That seems like everything in the benefit here for this Rift side. The guarantee was almost certainly there for Pirates of Pyjamas. They used Dragons, they used Annihilation, they almost found the fight. They will, however, find a Blizzard in return on this Pirate side, and that'll have to be the disengage. Yumitra, the first one to fall in the previous fight, will be the last one alive here. It's final fight territory as Pirates of Pyjamas use a lot, but they still win a fight off the back of it.
And they at least save themselves another one, maybe probably 2 fights if they were to lose their Rift. They use a lot of their Pip, use arguably even more. They only have the beat. If they can find Zolik early on, that is a very nice win condition for Rift. They're just going to leave this spot. There's no reason to push it. They will have a fight here in mid where I believe they've yet to really lose a clear fight other than Rift having that advantage the one time. And they will try and catch Strider early. They force the Nemesis and the wall, but doesn't find anything.
Dragons forced out on the far side as well. This is an isolation of Strider, but they are able to get that sound barrier off quickly. This has to be a disengage and a re-engagement later as soon as that health pool falls. There's just not enough time on the clock as Pirates in Pyjamas will swarm, they will sting, and they will win. Seems like Rift just could not come out with the advantages in the later stages. It'll cost them, especially here on Caliseo. So close, so far, as Pirates of Pyjamas will promote to 4-1. The Rift, still just a single win to their name.
And it just seemed like they didn't have that magic that they did against Strix. And especially late on here, this was final fight. The fact that they are able to find the Baptiste is what wins in this. Abyss gets
Yep.
caught out. They finish him off, and that is where Pip win this series. Right there. They also don't get the sound barrier off if you're a Rift. I believe they die at like 97 or 98%.
Yeah.
Just can't get the ultimates back up in time. And Pip, they are able to sneak another win in their pocket. 4-1 now for the Pirates in Pyjamas. I would say pretty much solidifying a knockout spot. Obviously, there could be a lot of movement into where they are in that top 8, but I personally, I think they're in a pretty good spot from the rest of it. Rift, it's still a workable spot. I think,
Yeah.
they've been the best of the rest, per se, back in spring. That was kind of the image that got put on them here in the beginning of summer. If they can beat Amplify in this next game, who I believe we're just playing over on the mainstream over on Twitch and YouTube, then they're at least in an okay spot to take it around the second half of the group stage.
I'm taking a look at the Contenders channel. They are also on Colosseo as of right now. If you happen to be curious, by the time we are talking, this game will have been over. This one, however, theirs is still going. Amplify's winning, but only barely. Worldwide up 2-1, winning the first 2 maps, losing the third, and Amplify trying to come back in that one, but having some difficulties to do so. They'll try and do so where Rift could not. And Rift will play against Amplify just after a little bit of an extended break again. If you want to go check out Amplify, take your notes, or if you are this Rift squad and you want to try and do your homework on that opposing team you will face next, twitch.tv/Overwatch Contenders. It is not abbreviated. My apologies. Head over there, watch the culmination of that game, and when they're done, come right back here for our follow-up coverage of Rift round action, as they'll take Amplify in the 6th round of play here in the North American Overwatch Contenders Summer Series.